Rifa Tharpe. I'm here live. Today I am going to jump straight into an update. I give you updates on what's going on in the laws, and for the past couple of months, unfortunately, it has not been great. And I do need to bring this to your attention though, because it's important. If you are living in Georgia or you are thinking about moving to Georgia, this is where we need to talk about the new bill that's in place. This new bill, which means it's a proposed law in Georgia, it has passed the House in Georgia, which means that now it's on its way for a vote in the Senate, in the state Senate, in Georgia Senate. And if they pass it, that means that they will pass a law that authorizes local and state law enforcement to arrest someone just for being undocumented. So anybody who is in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act can be arrested. So this is definitely the most restrictive bill I've seen. So we've talked about Florida, we've talked about Texas. This one, it's actually very straightforward in that anybody, it's very broad. Anybody overstayed, crossed the border without permission. You're here, your parole, maybe you even got parole, your parole has expired now. Anybody who is in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act and you do not have status, you're vulnerable to be detained by law enforcement, arrested by law enforcement, and taken to the jail. So I did a detailed review of the text of the bill, so I could bring the important details to you so you can understand what it is. So this is HB 1105. That's the name of the bill. And the name of the law would, if passed, would be the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024. And it is very scary, guys, because here, it requires Georgia law enforcement officials to work with federal immigration agencies to enforce immigration law. And what they're saying is that in the bill, they are going to be requiring state and local government employees. You could be working in the courthouse. You're considered a state employee when you're working in the courthouse. You could be in the courthouse. For example, when my clients get married, they have to some of them go to the courthouse and they have to get the marriage license. Well, if a person who is working in the courthouse asks for your identification, and they realize that you are undocumented, which sometimes they can see this, maybe they have a foreign passport, and if they tend to scroll through your passport, they can see that information, then they can report your information. They have that authority to do that. And then keep in mind that state and local government employees, including, so they don't say just law enforcement and prosecuting attorneys, they say state and local government employees. So anybody who's working for the state, including law enforcement officers and prosecuting attorneys, shall, that means it is not an option here. It is not encouraged. They actually crossed out in the text of the language, they crossed out encourage, are encouraged to receive and maintain immigration information about individuals, to shall. Under the text of the law, shall means it's a requirement. There's not an option. So they shall receive and maintain information about individuals' immigration status for the benefit of the public safety. But what that means is that if they determine that you do not have immigration status, they're going to keep that information. But then it goes further. Employees, so these state and local government employees, they shall not be prohibited from sharing the information with other law enforcement or federal agencies. So they don't have to worry about the liability related to sharing your information with other agencies. So for example, Say you go to the court, you go get your marriage license, and then the person that works at the court determines that you don't have immigration status. They can share that information, and they can then go ahead and law enforcement can investigate you. They can investigate your immigration status. And detain you, arrest you, take you to the jail, just like any other criminal, take you to the jail and detain you there. So this is serious stuff here. Um, and they also say here that no state or local agency shall be prohibited from accessing resources such as databases or any kind of sources of information to determine and verify your immigration status. So they will have a broad discretion to be able to access your information. So what does this look like if you are stopped by police, and if they have, and this is any police officer in the state, and they have reason to believe that you don't have status, they are required to check your immigration status. And they know everything to look for. They're not just looking for whether you cross the border without permission. They're looking at whether you overstay. They're looking for any violation of the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act. They're looking for any violation of immigration law. So even though immigration law is not normally criminalized, they're criminalizing it here. So under the state, if you overstayed your visa, if your time here has expired, if you came through the border, but you have no other proof of your immigration status, they can detain you. And then when they detain you, they are not to be held liable for such detention. So they have authority to transport you to the jail. And then when they get you there, they will they're going to check your status, and they know all the sources to check for. So they're checking your visa, they're checking your passport, they're checking your I-94. So that is listed in the text of this bill here, that they will check your I-94 to see if your time has expired. And if they cannot verify that you have lawful status, they will contact the federal agency like ICE. So they have ICE or the USCIS to verify your immigration status. And then they will determine whether ICE or any other law enforcement, immigration enforcement agency wants to detain you, to take you from them, so take you from them into immigration detention. So they will do this with every immigrant where they cannot determine your immigration status. Now, what it also, in the text of the bill, they did say that they will wait for 48 hours to determine whether they can keep you if they have no instructions from ICE or any other immigration agency that they want to take you. Then they will release you, but they will continue to keep your information. So if immigration then wants to say, immigration gets to them after 48 hours, they will then refer any information that they have on the immigrant so that immigration, ICE, can follow up and go ahead and detain the immigrant. So this is very serious here. It is basically saying that people can be arrested for just not having immigration status. So now we have Florida, we have Texas, and now we have Georgia. And here's the other thing. Usually it is left to law enforcement agencies because think about it. When we all in our communities are partners to law enforcement, in that if law enforcement needs help, they need information, it is in the best interest of law enforcement to approach everything with um, fairness and with balance. So they have been very hesitant in the past to pass laws like this. because it will create distrust in immigrant communities. It will, cause victims, victims who are victims of crimes in the state to not report it, because they feel as if they're going to be, and they're rightfully fearful of being detained themselves and deported. And so it is going to create a lot of distrust and a lot of problems for vulnerable populations. I represent clients who are victims of trafficking here, and that is a scary thing here. I can imagine for them, it will be a very scary thing to know that they can't report their trafficking to a law enforcement agency because they don't know how it's going to affect them. And by the way, I have not seen any exceptions in this bill for victims, for any kind of victims. So that means that whatever, if they determine, that law enforcement determines that you need to be detained too because of your immigration status, no, it does. The way it may create an exception here is that it does state that law enforcement still needs to comply with other laws. So, for example, we have we have the TV Trafficking Victims Protection Act that does protect victims, and then it also has VAWA that protects victims here, and so law enforcement still has to comply with those laws. So that is one exception. They don't state it in the text of the bill, but these are implied based on the confidentiality rules under those laws, VAWA and the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. However, it's, most people are not very educated on these laws. Most immigrants are not, and so they're not going to take any chances. So we have a very dangerous bill here that's going to create a lot of issues for undocumented immigrants, for sure. So what I want to say here is, I will keep you posted on what's going on with this bill. It's not a law yet. It still has to go to the Senate. And when I say Senate, it's state Senate. However, it seems here it's passed through very quickly because unfortunately there was an incident where an undocumented immigrant is accused of murdering a nursing student. And so this has created a very swift action on the part of the law enforcement officers to pass this law. So in this case, they're very determined. It has passed through very quickly. And just like Texas and Florida, where we did see those laws pass, be prepared, have your plan ready, because it does not look good. And this gives police officers, this gives local and state government employees great discretion and a lot of room to enforce immigration law. So I don't have any time for questions, unfortunately. I will come on tomorrow and I'll answer your questions tomorrow. But I thought it was very important to bring you a summary of this and, for you to start thinking about what are some potential ways to plan for yourself. As always, call, schedule a consultation, and let's talk about your options. Because as I said before, you've always heard me say, the best way forward is to have knowledge about your options. Because I've represented clients in Florida, represented clients in Texas, they had options. And those options have been a lifeline for them not to have to get up and pack up and leave. So let's evaluate your options first and determine what the best way forward is for you. Go to the link in the profile. It's me and Attorney Bria that are now evaluating your cases to determine how we can help you to gain the status you need to move forward here. But this is definitely a dangerous bill, and it doesn't, it's one of those things that I hate to bring to you, but I know I have to bring to you because knowledge is power here. And the more you know, the more you can plan for yourselves going forward. So I'll come back on, answer your questions tomorrow, but just let this sink in and start keeping an eye out for what could be coming. All right. Bye bye, everyone. Have a good day.